Hello everyone, today we'll be going over every single proposition on the ballots for California 2020 elections coming up this November. Obviously vote early if you can. I believe it started a couple days ago already. I'm making this video a little bit late. But yeah, we'll get right into it. I have a cheat sheet right here in the beginning. So you can see all the conclusions I've came to for each proposition. Feel free to screenshot it. If you're more of a liberal type person, you'll probably agree with every single thing I've listed here. And I've also timestamped each segment so you can skip to it if you want and see why I came to that conclusion. So we'll get right into the first one. Now, this category is regarding race and civil rights, and Prop 16 would end a ban on affirmative action. So in 1996, California imposed a ban on affirmative action, and ever since then, the Black and Latino population amongst college systems and schools and stuff have diminished severely. So I think it would be better if you're more for like giving people who don't have the same opportunities maybe as a more privileged family to be able to go ahead and, have a college education. So I would vote yes on Prop 16 so we could have affirmative action back, because I personally think it's a good idea. You might not agree with that. You might want to vote no, but that's your opinion. Personally, I think it's a good idea. So yes on 16. Prop 17 restores voting rights on people on parole. So like if you just got out of prison, basically it's saying if you should vote or not. Should we let people who are paroled have the right to vote? And I personally think yes. I think pretty much everybody should have the right to vote. I think it's kind of a scam because it's mainly minorities in prison in the first place, and minorities tend to vote Democratic, and I think it's a way to suppress votes. Partially because of the prison complex we have. So much money and stuff already goes to that sort of thing. And I think incarcerated people should have rights just like the rest of us. So I would say yes on Prop 17. Prop 18 would allow some 17-year-olds to vote, only if they will be 18 by the time the general election rolls around. So if they're 17 during the primaries, they're allowed to vote in the primaries. If they're going to be 18 by the time the main presidential election will occur. And personally, I think that's a good idea because young people tend to be more liberal and more open-minded. So I think it's a good idea to let them vote. So that's just my personal opinion. You might feel some other sort of way about it, but I would say yes on Prop 18. Now we're moving on to housing/reform bills, and we'll start with Prop 15, and this is sort of a confusing one. If you're just at first glance, it could seem confusing. So this one, it takes a little bit of reading to understand. It's not one of those ones that you would immediately get. But basically, Prop 15 would make it so that large companies would have to pay property taxes based on their current estimated value. Now, that would be opposed to, let's say they bought it, a long time ago when the property taxes were super cheap in that area. This would kind of close that loophole, so big businesses, they would end up having to pay more for their property taxes because, they generate massive profits, and what we would do with that additional revenue is we would fund our education system with it. So we would be literally taxing big corporations to fund our public schools, which I'm in favor of. I think that's a good idea. I think most people would be in favor of that, so therefore I would say yes on Prop 15. That's a good idea. Now we'll be moving over to Prop 19. Prop 19 is also a little bit of a tricky one. Let's say you've owned a house for a long time and you got it when the property was super cheap, the taxes were super cheap, and let's say it skyrockets. Let's say you live in a place like Los Angeles or San Francisco or something. You suddenly end up having to pay a lot more in property taxes with this Prop 19. So basically, Prop 19 sucks for small families because you end up having to pay a shitload if you live in a big city, and the property taxes go up because the value of the house goes up. So it could end up being a disaster. It's bad for small families, for middle class and lower class families. So I would say vote no on Prop 19. Now moving over to Prop 21. Prop 21 is supposed to be a new rent control legislation, and it helps restrict unfair practices. It helps keep rent low and affordable, and it's praised by like veteran groups and homeless advocacy centers. And overall, I think it's just helpful for middle class and lower class families. So I would say yes on Prop 21. Moving over to crime, we have Prop 25, and that would end the cash bail system in the state of California. Now, this would be very interesting because, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think any other state has what we're proposing. And so basically, instead of paying to get out of jail, like some people do, like a lot of people do, it would be based on solely if you were a risk to your community or if you're a flight risk or not. And if you're not a risk to your community and you're not a flight risk, then you don't pay any money. You just get out of jail, which I think is a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea to necessarily have more people incarcerated because we already have so much of that. And if they're not a risk to anybody, I don't really see why they should be in jail. Maybe you're more tough on crime, maybe you disagree, but I think that the cash bail system is unfair, and if you have money, then you basically get to do whatever you want. You just have to pay your bail and then you're free. But if you're middle class, if you're lower class, it really becomes a problem, especially if you're a minority. So it's not good. So I would say we vote yes on Prop 25 since that ends the cash bail system. Moving on to Prop 20. Prop 20 allows higher convictions for petty crimes like shoplifting, and I believe it also makes penalties for breaking your parole more strict. Basically, this bill was advocated for by law enforcement agencies. I think it's just another ploy just to give them more funding and give them more control. Personally, I think the convictions on things like petty crimes and other small things like that is already sturdy enough. We don't need more people in jail. We don't need more people in prison. We just we should be more focused on reforming our society as a whole, and like we can't just arrest everybody. That's just ridiculous. Anyways, I would say we should vote no on Prop 20 so we don't give the police more power to convict us and harass us and do all sorts of nasty stuff. So vote no on 20. Moving on to Prop 22. Prop 22 would allow app-based drivers to remain to be independent contractors. Now, I myself have experience in this field. I have family who do it. I have friends who do it. And I think overall, the majority of app-based drivers wish to remain independent contractors. Like, that's kind of like the whole point, is to not be tied down to one sort of company. And if this passes, this would make a bunch of unprecedented changes, and there'd be so much more changes. And if I'm not mistaken, like thousands of people could be laid off, and it wouldn't be good overall for the drivers. It wouldn't be good for the companies. I think voting yes on Prop 22 is the smart move. I think people should be able to remain independent contractors if they want, because there's plenty of other legit 9-to-5 delivery gigs and driving gigs that you can do where you have a paycheck every week and like you have to go in from this day to this day and report to this guy. That's not really what app-based driving is for. So again, yes on Prop 22. I think it's a good idea. Prop 23 requires doctors to be present during dialysis treatments. This one is kind of like, I don't even know who wrote this thing, but it's very weird because it's just like, this would make it very hard for lots of people to to receive dialysis treatment. Because think about it, you need one doctor there every single time like somebody's doing dialysis treatment. Like, they need to be present. Like, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, it's not that complicated. You could have like a nurse or somebody, some sort of medical assistant helping many patients, rather than there always being a physician available to oversee the dialysis treatment. This bill, if passed, would restrict treatment for thousands of people. So I think it's a terrible idea. And so you should vote no on Prop 23. Prop 24 is of particular interest to me. I think it's pretty cool. This would expand consumer privacy rights online, and it's been backed by like Andrew Yang and other official, important, cool people, and it's basically expands our rights online. So therefore, companies wouldn't be allowed to sell your data unless they asked your permission explicitly. And it would start a new program known as the California Privacy Protection Agency, which I'm a little skeptical of. Obviously, it's like we're funding a new oversight committee, basically. But I think this would be overall good for privacy online and the future of privacy online for America. Not just California, but the entirety of America. Yes, I think privacy should be valued online. And so overall, I think this agency would be worth it. I think it would make sense. I think it would make sense to expand our rights, our privacy rights online. So therefore, yes on Prop 24. Now for the last one, we have Prop 14. This would allow $5.5 billion to go to funding stem cell therapy or stem cell research in general. Now, there's a lot of controversy surrounding this one. You might lean towards yes, you might lean towards no. $5.5 billion does seem like a lot of money, but you have to realize we are like the richest state in one of the richest nations in the entire world, and I think we could most certainly afford to put a few $1 billion in stem cell research, which has been proven to help all sorts of things. It has like unlimited potential on what it could help for people who are sick, people who need like repairs, they need like a new knee, or they're suffering from brain damage, anything in between. Trump just recently used stem cell therapy for his to treat COVID, so he used it for that, and so yeah. It's very important, I think, and there's not enough funding. The people opposing stem cell research are usually Republicans, and if you disagree with it, then you should vote no on Prop 14, but as for everybody else, I think they should vote yes. Yes on Prop 14, yes on funding stem cell research. It's a good idea. Yes. So if you agreed or disagreed, whatever, let me know down in the comment section which one you disagreed on, why you disagree with it. Tell me, I don't know, who you're going to be voting for. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to vote for Biden this November. I really didn't want to, but now that Trump is floating around the idea of the elections being rigged, we have to make the amount of blue votes overwhelming, so it's unignorable that an overwhelming majority of Americans want Donald Trump out of office. I don't agree with Joe Biden. I don't like Joe Biden. I'll fight him every step of the way once he is in office. But we got to get Trump out. Personally, that is my opinion. You may not agree with that. So that is my take on this whole thing. I'm going to leave timestamps on every piece of the things we went over, and that is all. So, happy voting. Thank you. Goodbye. Fuck off. Bye.